Okay, well, I haven't made a video for months, so this is going to be a quick video about some 1980s boombox that I can't find any information about online. But that would presumably not be because it's rare or special, but just because it's so cheap that nobody really cares about it. Or it could be one of those so-called, when a product is produced by so many companies under so many different names that you just can't find it under whatever specific name you have. But anyways, this video is mostly just because of the fact that I was advertised on a channel that I really, really respect. So I wanted to actually fulfill what was said about my channel. If there's any sound in the background, I don't know if my camera is picking it up, but that's just a shower. Basically, what this is a really cheap and relatively crappy 1980s boombox. But the thing is, most people in the 80s couldn't afford the really nice hi-fi stuff that people like to look back at and they think, well, this is what the 80s is like. Well, it wasn't really. Most people probably had one of these kind of crappy, no real famous brand, cheap plastic, probably Tanshin mech tape drives. These awful things that have these labels all over them that don't mean anything. Like here it says FM, which would be enough, right? But no, it says frequency modulation. It has to specify what it is. MW, medium wave. Why? Just to fill up the blank space, to make it look more interesting. As well as that, it has this kind of useless FM stereo thing here, which doesn't really mean much, really. And all of this over here, which is completely useless. These things on the actual cassette doors, which I never really understood the purpose of, but I would assume it's something to do with being able to tell how much tape you have on either side of your cassette. I don't see the purpose of that. Of course, mechanical tape counter that nobody really uses. At least the ejection is pretty nice. It's slow. And of course, if anybody watches Tecmon, they'd know this would probably pass the DAD test. So you can swap it between the radio, which is built into it, of course. Something that at least is redeemable about it is the fact that it actually has a headphone jack. Some of these didn't even have those. From what I recall, it's been a very long time since I actually had this thing open. These speakers on the inside were made by Daewoo, and I don't think there's anything at all up there. I think it's just these speakers, so these things up here are completely fake. Another thing I'd like to mention, the tuning knob. I don't know if it's audible, but it makes an awful sound. It's like the most horrendous thing in the world. I hate it. You can hear the band that is used to drag this little dial on the inside making a little noise, and it's so cheap and crap. Texet, from what I'm able to find, was actually a calculator manufacturer. They had factories and places making stuff in Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, loads of places, and I don't exactly know where it originated. But there's nothing about them making radios or boomboxes or anything to do with cassettes. So that's kind of annoying. Oh, by the way, this antenna that I have on this, that's not original. The original antenna, or whatever antenna I had with it, was kind of wrecked. So I had to remove that and replace it with this one, which is bought from China, of course. It has this C mic, which means condenser mic, which probably sounds awful. Of course, you've all of your nice mechanical buttons, although they're all made of plastic, as you would expect. And then the switch between FM, MW, LW, if you're using the radio, of course, but I would probably use this mostly for tapes, which obviously I'm a cassette tape collector. Over here, that's really melted. I'm not sure, but it looks kind of like a chemical splashed on it at some point. There's no way of fixing that, I don't think. This knob's too hard to get off. the back, you can see there is a label there that says Made in Korea, Texet, and it says what it is. It says, you know, the usual no user serviceable parts, even though that's a complete lie, really. It has this power input here with a sticker that's obviously been faded. It can take 6 D-cell batteries, which would probably make it very heavy, of course, and it has these vents at the back of each speaker. I wonder, I was going to turn it on, but I don't actually have any cassettes to play and I don't want the radio playing. But the radio is really horrible and the cassettes don't play at the correct speed. There's a lot of wow and flutter. Like, it's not that bad, it's not the worst I've heard, but it's just not what it should be, so I assume that there's something wrong with the belts. But I don't have any replacements. I don't think there'd be a way of actually getting replacement belts for it, or even a point, because it's kind of cheap and crappy, so it would be strange to actually want to repair one of these. But I can confirm that it does actually work. At least the radio part works fine, although it sounds awful. I listened to some progressive rock cassettes on it, of course. But I can't exactly remember the sound quality. I remember it being different to the radio and just sounding kind of faster or slower and wow and flutter and all that. But otherwise I think it was okay. Anyways, I have some rather large objects to show that I don't really know how to. One of them is a top-loading VCR from like 40 years ago. Those things are pretty rare. And of course I really need to get showing my computer collection, the Amiga, the Commodore 64, the ZX Spectrum, and, you know, everything else that I have involving computers, I guess. Just because I have had them for so long, and, well, I just haven't shown them at all, and I kind of feel stupid for not showing them. For instance, my ZX Spectrum is boxed, but it's been awaiting RAM repair since I got it, and I actually have the replacement RAM chip, so, well, it's been a wasted opportunity, I guess, so I'll have to do that. I suppose I could make a video about all of my calculators in one, although I don't have any particularly interesting ones aside from the ones that I've already shown on my channel. I have regular pocket calculators and such. I don't really have that much new technology, although I do have other items that would be much more difficult to show, such as a projector. I mean, how would I show that? I'm not able to actually project anything because I wouldn't have anywhere to project it to. I have a bunch of pieces of clothing. I don't know how to show that, but I would love to because they're very interesting. They're uniforms. But all this stuff is obviously for the future. This video about this crappy boombox is just sort of like filler to say that I'm actually making videos again. But I don't know how. Well, anyways, I'm going to end it here now.